Silent Hill 2 needs no introduction. Released in 2001 by Team Silent and Konami, the original game was an absolute smash hit, with both critics and fans, earning some of the highest praise ever bestowed onto a video game. To this day, it still ends up in people's best games of all time lists, and honestly, it's not hard to see why. From its gritty, real characters to its heavy, dreary atmosphere, Silent Hill 2 has so many layers that by the time you finish the game, you just can't help but want to know more. You can't help but feel attached to these characters and to this place. I picked up a secondhand copy of the original release way back in 2008 from a game store now long gone called The Gamesman. I remember scoring this bad boy for a whopping $15. Sheesh. I miss when buying retro games wasn't totally controlled by fucking scalpers. And, well, alright, I'm gonna be honest with you, and don't think less of me for this, but I kinda never finished the original release.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
I know, but there was a lot of stuff going on in my life at that time. I'd always meant to go back and finish it, of course. So many YouTubers I followed back then sung this game's praise from the rooftops. I watched plenty of deep analysis videos, breaking down the endings, the themes, everything. But I was in a stage of my life where I just didn't have access to a console, or TV, or a fridge, or a lot of stuff, actually. So, I enjoyed the game through osmosis, watching some of my favorite YouTubers, like Jordan Underneath and NitroRad, explaining how much this game defined their tastes in horror, or talking about how much of a connection their lives had with it. I got familiar with Silent Hill through these kinds of videos, loving the game's tone and atmosphere, when the only games I had actually completed from the series then were The Room, Homecoming, and Downpour. Then, only a few years ago, Konami emerged from the mausoleum and announced,
"Hey, so I know we said we don't really care about making games anymore, but here's a bunch of Silent Hill announcements."
We hadn't been given a scrap of Silent Hill content since 2014, which, if I need to remind you, was when they cancelled PT. And now they announced 2 games, a weird streaming series. What the fuck is this?
Through the merging ceremony, we see the spiritual benefit of communal intimacy, and so will you.
And a remake? And that remake is for the series' best, or second best, depending on who you talk to, game? This could be amazing. You know, as long as Konami didn't fuck anything up, of course. Oh man, they're gonna fuck this up, aren't they? Oh. Oh.
You loved her.
Oh shit. Holy shit, they didn't fuck it up? Silent Hill 2's story follows James Sunderland, a man who's returning to this sleepy little town by Toluca Lake at the request of his wife, Mary. Simple enough premise, right? Well, thing is, Mary's dead. She's been dead for 3 years, and yet we got a letter asking us to come here and find her. The last place James and his wife had been truly happy together. A picturesque little town in America. At least, it was. As we traverse through the fog and desolate streets of Silent Hill, we meet a few others who are here for their own reasons. Angela, Eddie, Laura, and Maria. Each of their stories interweaving with ours. Initially, the story beats feel very logical, going through the town's landmarks in search of Mary. But after each major location, the town feels like it's growing more antagonistic. Its environment's becoming more smothering. Even the notes we find shifting from quaint reminders to nightmarish warnings of monsters. And by the time we reach the historical society, we can't even trust the ground beneath our feet. A Kafka-esque descent into James's personal hell. And what would hell be without its monsters? Squirming, hobbling, undulating creatures that just ooze misery, perversion, and corruption. The enemy designs in Silent Hill 2 are very, very intentional. When compared to Silent Hill 1's rosters of monsters that, well, I just felt like they were kind of ordered from the spooky warehouse of PS1 creatures. Silent Hill 2's bestiary is very different. Its creatures all being very effeminate. The lying figures, mannequins, bubblehead nurses, and mandarins all exemplify female traits. Well, with some quite notable exceptions. On your first playthrough, you probably won't think twice about them, but after you really understand Silent Hill 2 and understand why the things are the way that they are here, suddenly every monster in this town has a much deeper meaning to them. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about a couple of other things before we cross the threshold into spoiler territory, shall we? Silent Hill 2 is a survival horror in the vein of the Resident Evil remakes. The recent ones, not the 2002 one. A big focus on exploring, solving puzzles, and dealing with monsters. Blooper Team stayed incredibly faithful to the original version of Silent Hill 2 that Masahiro Ito and his team worked on, but with some minor tweaks here and there. The biggest change of which is definitely the combat. In the original release, the combat was clunky and bad. It was bad. But intentionally so, as Team Silent had said they wanted you to feel like someone who isn't some action hero or professional, you're just some guy. Which I think fits the game, narratively at least, but it could really lead to some clunky fights. Silent Hill 2 Remake's combat feels a lot more like the Resident Evil 4 combat. You have a dedicated melee button, a quick dodge button, and you can of course aim and shoot your firearm. To me, I think it's a great way to update the combat in Silent Hill 2 without going too over the top. There's no crazy combos, no finishers or stealth attacks, just shoot, slap, and duck. The dodge is incredibly helpful with some enemies, rewarding your patience and recognizing patterns to gain an opening. While for some enemies, like the nurses, I really struggle to dodge them very effectively. So maybe they'll warrant a couple of rounds from your shotgun or your rifle. The puzzles in Silent Hill 2 are also incredibly fun to figure out. In fact, this is the first game in a long while that's had me actively taking notes while I played, just so I could figure out a puzzle combination or one of the game's riddles. Sure, there are a couple of esoteric ones in the mix, but that's just keeping true to the original game. Something I also really enjoyed with the remake here was just how many places within Silent Hill you can enter and explore. See, now you can break the windows out of vehicles and walls to check for items like extra ammo or health drinks. But in some places, you can actually hop inside of these dilapidated stores and explore. And even if the rewards are tiny, hell, even if there's absolutely nothing to loot, I really appreciate being able to go inside of these places. It helps make the streets of Silent Hill feel more real. I saw a few posts online actually complaining about how the remakes had added more busy work, and by this amount of time I'd already finished the original game type complaints, which had me sort of baffled, honestly. It's one thing when remakes cut parts of the original game out. You know, like when the Resident Evil remakes cut out a bunch of stuff, especially from Resident Evil 3, or when they fundamentally change the vibe of the original or the source material. But when a remake genuinely expands on the experience, hell, I'm always for games taking longer. Rushing through games like Silent Hill 2 just, it feels like a disservice to me. Just take your time with it. Settle into its ambience. Be immersed. Be invested. I promise you'll have a better time if you do. And while we're talking about ambience, Akira Yamaoka composed the haunting music and ambience that gave the original Silent Hill 2 its voice. And I was overwhelmingly happy to see that he was returning to compose for the game's 2024 remake. Silent Hill 2 is very sparing in the music it uses, only giving us genuine songs in tandem with powerful story beats or moments, instead opting to overwhelm the player in an oppressive, smothering ambience. So much of the audio you'll experience in this game feels less like your standard video game music, and more like some gasping, otherworldly thing out the corner of your peripheral. Unnerving and disorientating. There were moments in the game that I was genuinely getting overwhelmed with anxiety, and this is coming from someone who is a horror game veteran, who literally falls asleep to horror movie marathons. Then you have songs like the theme of Laura with its experimental rock punching through that ambience. A song that genuinely fills you with this forlorn hope that things are going to be okay, or somehow get better. The song is literally audible Prozac. Or songs like Mary's Letter that have this quiet, mournful energy. The kind of music you could listen to on repeat on a rainy, dreary day. So much of the game's music has this otherworldly, incandescent vibe to it. And honestly, if Bloober Team had decided to go another direction with it for this remake, I think a lot of what made the original game so memorable would have been lost in this remake. And I think they knew that right from the get-go. Before I go any further, this section is going to talk about some pretty heavy stuff, as well as spoiling a lot of elements of the game and its characters. If you're sensitive to any of the content listed here, or want to experience this remake or the original wholly spoiler-free, I would recommend skipping to the timestamp. Silent Hill 2 is a complex game. It's the kind of media that warrants its countless case studies, video essays, and deep dives. No character in the game can really wholly be considered a good person, or wholly a bad person. Everyone we encounter has gone through their own trials and struggles. It's a big part of why they were drawn to this town, and as such, how these characters see the town. When we first meet Angela in the cemetery on the outskirts of Silent Hill, she tells us she's here looking for her mama. She appears incredibly distant and almost childish in her mindset and mannerisms. It's not hard to tell something has deeply affected her. The next time we bump into her in the apartments, Angela is looking even worse, lying there on the floor and holding a kitchen knife. James manages to persuade Angela to give him the knife.
If I kept it, I'm not sure what I might do.
Even when offering James the knife, him simply reaching for it elicits a terrified reaction from Angela before breaking down and belittling herself. As we learn more about Angela, we discover the very ugly truth behind her reality. Why she's here, someone who suffered so much domestic abuse, notably from her father and brother, that she genuinely cannot trust James or any male figure in her life. Later, we intervene when she is attacked by this hideous creature aptly named the Abstract Daddy, a manifestation of Angela's sexual trauma. After beating this genuinely uncomfortable boss fight, James tries to help Angela calm down, but she can't help but lash out at him, genuinely unable to trust even a gesture of kindness for fear of what could be the underlying intentions of James. Angela murdered her father after he had sexually assaulted her. This nightmarish experience led her to consider taking her own life, and was why she was called back to Silent Hill. She is a broken, struggling victim, and the fact that this game doesn't just wave a wand and go, "See, she's all better now," shows how much respect and understanding the game has for these themes, and how much trauma can destroy a person from the inside out. The next character we meet in Silent Hill is Eddie, who we first encounter at the apartments throwing up in the toilet. We find a dead body near him, which James comments on, but Eddie insists he had nothing to do with it.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it. I didn't do it, I swear.
The deeper we get into the game, the more often Eddie is encountered near these dead bodies, always mustering up excuses, insisting it wasn't him, that it was self-defense, that the guy was going to attack him, to eventually just outright telling us he killed someone just for looking at him. It can be very easy to slap a bad guy label on Eddie, who turns out had shot one of the people who bullied him and their pet dog. But Eddie was a regular victim of bullying, and he reached his absolute limit before snapping. It was this action which called him to Silent Hill, on the run from police and terrified. It's important to note that while Eddie did kill his bully's dog, he did not kill the bully himself, rather shooting him in the knee and crippling him. But as time passed in Silent Hill, Eddie's fraying sanity snapped, resulting in his final confrontation with James, convinced that he is just another shitty human being that was laughing at him and mocking him behind his back, too far gone to be talked down, viewing death as the great equalizer to everyone.
It doesn't matter if you're smart, dumb, ugly, pretty. It's all the same once you're dead.
He's someone that has been harassed, talked down to, abused, and flippantly told to kill himself so many times that lashing out is all that he feels like is left. James genuinely telling Eddie he needs help, while coming from a genuine place of care, only cements in his mind that James is looking down on him, resulting in one of the game's most chilling boss fights.
Do you know what it does to you, James? When you're hated, picked on, spit on, just because of the way you look? Yeah, I ran away after I killed that dog. But you know what? It was fun. It tried to chew its own guts up. Finally died all curled up in a ball. Then he came after me. I shot him too, right in the leg. He cried more than the dog.
And then there's James himself, our protagonist looking for his dead wife in a ghost town 3 years after she's already dead. Anytime I talk about James to friends, they either fall into one of two camps. The first being, well, why the hell would you go looking for someone you know is dead? And the second being, of course you would try and find them. They were your whole world. James is pretty clearly suffering from grief and depression. He can't move on from losing Mary, something he is directly responsible for. And even when he's reading her letter, even when he's talking to characters like Angela, he knows he sounds crazy, but he can't bring himself to leave. He has to see her again.
Don't worry, I'm not crazy. At least I don't think so.
The way we see Silent Hill is through James's eyes. The monsters in this hellscape are shaped around his psyche, experience, and emotions. The Silent Hill we're experiencing is literally a hell of his own making. We even have moments when we talk to other characters like Laura and Angela who don't even see this place the same as we do. A noticeable instance being the final scene in which we see Angela on the staircase.
You see it too? For me, it's always like this.
He's a flawed but redeemable person. Kind of like a modern-day Orpheus. Which, the more I think about it, makes for a pretty fitting comparison. Venturing into the land of the dead in an attempt to bring his wife back to life. Naturally, the game's endings vary pretty massively. And while a lot of the community feel the in-water ending is the canon ending to the game, in fact, even the original voice actor agrees with this point.
If you add up the fact that the in-water ending is so beautifully constructed, and then her body in the back of the car is like, boom, okay, well, for them, that's the ending that their heart was in.
Konami have always said there actually isn't a canon ending to Silent Hill 2. Leaving the fate of James to be intentionally ambiguous. But, to me, I really like the leave ending. Though a big part of that is I'm kind of a sap for these characters, and that ending felt like the most hopeful to me. It's very bittersweet. Then there's Laura. It's not 100% clear exactly why she's even in Silent Hill. We know she knew Mary, and that they became friends at the hospital. But she absolutely despises James.
Hey! Wait! Damn it.
The town appears different to everyone there, and Laura doesn't appear to even be able to see the monsters that James and the others encounter. There is a theory that she was called to Silent Hill as part of the town's way of punishing James, but I don't exactly know how concrete that is.
In the original release, the intro video features a small snippet of Eddie and Laura looking at a map by a white van, which would imply that he helped Laura to get to Silent Hill, which was further confirmed in the Lost Memories Silent Hill Chronicle book. However, that scene is entirely absent in this remake. And even when we get to hear Eddie and Laura interacting at the theater, they never touch on it. It probably has remained unchanged, but it would be nice to get some kind of clarification.
Do I look like your girlfriend?
And as for Maria, I'm not even sure she's a real person at all. A lot of theories say she's a physical manifestation of the town, which came about through James's desperation to see Mary again. Some theories label her as a manifestation of James's guilt for his inability to cope after what he did to Mary. And that's why we see her die so many times throughout the game's story. She also has a tattoo of a butterfly, which is the main motif around her character. Something that often represents rebirth through a lot of cultures. And there's one other character I'd like to talk about before we move on. Though he's not exactly a character per se, and that's Pyramid Head. Everyone knows this guy. He's Silent Hill's nemesis, the face that everyone puts to the franchise. Though the more you learn about him as an entity, the more it feels so wrong for him to show up in, well, anything outside of this game. See, remember when I touched on the monsters of Silent Hill a little earlier? How they're all these feminine, abstract creatures. And yet Pyramid Head is the very big old exception. Pyramid Head is the manifestation of James Sunderland's guilt, his subconscious need to be punished. He pursues us through the game, a hulking, unstoppable monster. His purpose and very reason to exist being to punish and remind James of his actions. Masahiro Ito actually created Pyramid Head and his role in Silent Hill 2 based on a quote from the movie that inspired a lot of Silent Hill 2, Jacob's Ladder.
He said the only thing that burns in hell is the part of you that won't let go of your life. Your memories, attachments, they burn them all away. But they're not punishing you, he said. They're freeing your soul. If you're frightened of dying and you're holding on, you'll see devils tearing your life away. But if you've made your peace, then the devils are really angels, freeing you from the earth. It's just a matter of how you look at it, that's all.
Our encounters with him are always incredibly stressful, be it from just running to having to stand our ground until he relents. The final encounter with him impaling Maria, and James finally coming to terms with himself.
I know what you are. I know why I needed you. But it's all over now. I don't need you anymore.
We endure a pretty harrowing fight against two of them, flanking us and brandishing great spears. Probably one of, if not the toughest fight in the entire game, before the climax of the fight is just cut short. Both of them unceremoniously impaling themselves on their spears, confirming James's words to us. And this is where we should have seen the last of the infamous Triangle Man. Not just my words, but a sentiment of his creator, Masahiro Ito. However, because of the character's iconic status, many other Silent Hill projects have decided to borrow James's Punisher in hopes of it improving their follow-up media. It, never does, but with such an amazing design, I can kinda understand why Konami wanted to use him wherever they could. And I'll have you all know it took a lot of willpower to not make a pachinko joke here. Silent Hill 2's remake has been an amazing game to play through, keeping the spirit and the depth of the original while updating elements to make the game feel more accessible. In fact, Masahiro Ito directly praised Blooper Team, even saying that he wished he and his team could have developed the original Silent Hill 2 using the Unreal Engine. And if that doesn't show you how much respect the original developer holds for this remake, well, nothing's gonna. Is it going to replace the original? No. The 2001 game will always be an irreplaceable masterpiece. And for so many people, the memories and nostalgia of the PlayStation 2 release are going to be worth more to them than anything that can be produced today. But for people who can't afford the scalper fee, or people who want to see the town with a new coat of paint, I promise you, you will not be disappointed. I'm so glad that I gave this remake a chance, because it has been a fantastic experience to play through, and only left me hungry for more. After I finish seeing all of the game's endings, I seriously want to experience more of this amazing franchise. Play through Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 3. Though, probably through emulation, cause, yeah, those eBay scalpers are downright villains. They're scarier than fucking Pyramid Head. But, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and going through this adventure with me. I hope you've all had a fantastic Halloween, and spent the season embracing all things spooky. If you're looking for horror movies to watch, why not check out Jacob's Ladder, the movie that massively inspired this game? Or maybe check out the Silent Hill movie from 2006. It's, you know, far from perfect, but damn if it isn't a guilty pleasure of mine. Stay safe, everybody. And take a little time to love yourselves if you need it. This game sure made me feel like doing a little soul searching. And until next time, take care.